delete the Facebook page thing that has the temporary message.
Looks like there's a third person. Maybe that's him. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll bring him over while you're doing that.
Okay.
What is the reason why? Oh, there we go. That's deleted.
Can you both hear me?
I can. Hey, Brian.
Hi.
We're just prepping stuff for Facebook.
Okay.
Okay, it says preparing live stream preview.
Ryan, are you at a place where you can do video?
I believe so, but I can't start my video. It says it's blocked.
Okay, let me see if I can fix that.
It says your host has stopped it.
I should be able to fix it. Should be. There we go. Oh, there we go.
It says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
All right. Now I'll try.
There you are.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
Is that not good? Let me just get this right.
Yeah, and then we're just waiting, Jessica. I guess it would same thing if it doesn't start in like.
It says unable to stream video to Facebook Live.
Oh, that's not. Try it again.
Try this. Let me close it and try it again. Share on a page. Look. Yeah, let's see again. Brian, is it midnight?
It's 11 p.m. and I'm adjusting to UK time, so I was struggling to stay awake.
Oh gosh. I'm glad you made it on the call.
Yes. Nice to meet you, Aaron.
Likewise, nice to meet you. So you're in the UK?
I am right now, yeah.
Awesome. How's life over there in this uncertain times?
It's crazy here. It's going to get a lot worse and it gets better before it gets better.
Same here. It's just weird. It's just eerie and it's just different.
It's the unknown, right?
It's the unknown. I think that's what it is. I mean, you can't really plan for, like, you can't plan for anything.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, eerie's a good word for it.
What's that?
Eerie's a good word for it. It still says preparing live stream preview.
That's better than the other one.
Yeah, it still says the same thing, unable to stream video. And last time it dropped, right? So I'm not sure what happened.
Let me just check the account that you've got and make sure there's nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, it says it's on today.
Did you have this problem before, Jess, today?
No, I guess just the last like 5 minutes or 10 minutes of the last interview, then it stopped. But it was running the whole several hours before that.
And how have your other convos been?
Been awesome.
Yeah.
Been long long day, but it was great.
I tried to log in earlier just to see if I could join, but I don't know if I was interrupting or there's like a couple of people on there, so then I just left.
Oh no, you wouldn't have interrupted it.
Okay.
Yeah, everything was fine on your account.
Try one more time. If it doesn't, I guess, can we just record here and then just show it after?
Yeah, we could theoretically. I mean, it's already recording, and it'll save to your account.
Okay.
And it looks like there's at least another person already in here. Angela.
That's Angela.
Yeah, if we have to record it, we can just post it to your page later if that ends up being the best option. I think you did it at least 3 times last time, right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, let's see. It's trying to push through the last, it's like, what's 75%. No, it still says the same. It says return to the Zoom application and try again.
It's just something is weird. Well, it's your call. If you want to try it a couple more times, you can. Or what's the error message is saying?
Unable to stream to Facebook Live.
Let's see. Yeah, you could try and clear your cache. Yeah, something's not connecting directly from your Zoom to your Facebook. So you could try and clear your cache. I could tell you to do that, or you could just go. It's totally up to you.
Just trying to push it through one more time.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll just go with what we have and then post it later. Brian, do you have someone that's trying to watch on Facebook Live? Is that why you were asking?
Yeah, I've just messaged him now to see if he can actually log in or see what comes up. So we're having technical difficulties.
You think we'd be further along in video streaming in our world, but it's still one of those things that's not great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can just, yeah, still has that message. We can just continue here and then post it after, I guess.
Hey, and while you're, I wonder if it'll mess anything up. Share your screen with me, and then with remote access, and while you guys are talking, I'll see if I can play around with it without affecting the video. So I'm going to turn it off.
Okay, so just start. So Angela's saying Ned and Karen want to join with Facebook Live too.
Yeah, if it's timing out and you want to start, share your screen with me, and then I'll play around with it.
Can you share my screen?
Yeah, and then give me remote, and then while you guys are talking.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. All right, now.
Oh, look at them beautiful kids.
Oh, wait, but that shows the whole thing.
Yeah, it didn't give me an option to.
Mm-hmm. Just, do I have remote access to yours? Yeah. Yes, I do.
Thanks for your patience, guys.
Let's try one more thing.
Well, like at least Angela understands. She's like, oh good. I know you're super relaxed. Got your cup of tea.
Is Angela joined?
Yeah.
She can't see us, right? Because it's not connected.
She can see us, yeah.
Oh, she can.
Because she joined via Zoom. It's just the
Oh,
Facebook can't see us.
how come it doesn't show her? All I can see is you, me, and Aaron.
Maybe because I'm one of the hosts. Maybe that's why I can see.
Okay. Hi, Angela.
Oh, you can't see anything?
All I can see is you, me, and Aaron.
Oh, okay.
It's not giving me your full Zoom.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that was like all day.
Because I need where you're clicking on more to share with your Facebook page, right?
So again?
When you're sharing to Facebook, you're clicking on more right here.
Where are you pointing to?
Down below. Oh, so I actually can't see yours. That's what it is. I can't see your Zoom options. This thing here. Yeah, it's not giving me options to do anything on yours.
Okay. Okay, we'll just roll with this then.
Okay, and I'll type in both places.
On Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so Brian, we're just gonna have to run without Facebook Live and then post this afterwards.
Okay. No problem.
Okay, cool. All right, so I appreciate you being on here and
Thank
joining
you for having me.
all the way from the UK, even though I know you live here in Canada. So what I shared with people at the beginning was you are going to come on and share your experience of being incarcerated back in the UK as a youth and your spiritual transformation that you've been on, and also the impact that your past has had on your life here in Canada decades later. So if you want to start with let's go back to the UK. How did you tell us your story? Like, how did you get into trouble? How did you get into the other side of the law?
I guess there was a point in my life as a youth when I was probably about 15 or 16 where I started hanging around with different people. And when I reflect back now, it was from a place of pure ego, as most young boys are, and not being happy with the things, being sucked into my environment, doing things that I shouldn't be doing, being a rebel, trying to show off to friends who were involved in various different aspects of crime, violence, and silly things that boys shouldn't be doing when they're young. And that resulted me in getting into a situation where I attacked somebody, and the technical term that I coined then was robbed them. So I took this wallet off a young lad, and resulted in me having a 2-year sentence as a young offender. So at the age of 17, in July 1997, I was committed to 2 years in a young offenders institution. I only did a year because you only do half of your sentence here in the UK. I don't know how it differs in Canada or the US. Mm-hmm. But yeah, 17 years old, finding myself locked up in a very violent young offenders jail back here in Leicester in the UK. So that's how my journey started, and that was my first experience of being incarcerated.
And weren't you incarcerated twice?
I was twice, yeah. So that was my first time, and the second time was about 2.5 years after that, where I experienced a man's jail. And again, that was just for being violent, fighting in the streets and being caught. And because I had a previous record, I was subsequently then sent in again. This time it was 12 months, and I did 4, and the rest on tag, which is where they put a tag around your ankle.
Oh, okay.
And you're on a strict curfew.
Yep.
So
fun times.
And quite ironic and interesting that right now the world is locked down.
Yep.
Because of coronavirus. And I've been speaking to a lot of people who are struggling even just to stay in the space of their house, you know. Now, they're not used to it and they feel confined and trapped. And it takes me back to those times when we had to spend 22 hours in a cell, day in, day out.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's like you're struggling with this. Like, just imagine the millions of people that are incarcerated all around the world and confined to a cell for that long.
Yeah. And it's difficult for people to understand, right? People just come with the assumption that they did a crime and they're paying the price, so they deserve to be where they are. So a lot of people would never be able to empathize or offer sympathy towards people that are behind bars because they just assume they've done a crime and they deserve to be in there, which to some respect is true. But, we're still human beings, right?
Exactly. And how were you treated by staff in, like, I know it was a rough jail that you were in as a youth. How were you treated by staff and by other people?
It was interesting. I found that in a young offenders institution, it's a lot worse because most of the guards that I experienced were almost on a power trip, especially the female ones. So they like to exert their authority, which is easier to do on kids and youngsters. So my experiences were pretty unique. Like, I was one of the only brown people or Indians on my wing of 70 inmates.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of racial abuse at the beginning, which I used to experience back then, being in the UK.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was pretty educated, so I'd done well at school. I wasn't like a lot of the inmates that were in there, who some of which couldn't even read. So I think the guards picked up quickly that he's got a bit of education behind him. So they treated me differently than they treated others. But there were still times at the beginning where they would abuse their power and overstep the mark,
Yeah.
which I saw every day at that age.
And that was in when you were a youth.
Correct.
And then how about when you were in adult jail?
Adults was pretty somber. More adults, people are just getting on with their sentence. So it was a completely different environment. Not as much violence within the jail. People are a lot more accepting of others. So that was quite a different experience. And I was first I was in a double category A dispersal jail, and then I got moved to a semi-open jail, where there was a lot more freedom. So it was a completely different experience.
Okay. In what way?
In that people are more sensible and a bit more rational. They've got a bit more experience. Whereas in the young offenders, you just have to say something wrong to somebody, and that would result in them trying to attack you with a weapon or organizing a fight. It was very, very reactive, very, very egocentric, a lot of egos. Sorry?
Scrappy.
Yeah, scrappy
people.
is a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. And so so after you left jail the second time, did you continue on a path that was destructive, or like what was your turning point where you were like, I can't do this again?
My turning point was actually when I met a female, which is now my ex-wife. She grounded me, and I guess the feeling of love that I was getting from her was something that I was probably searching for at that time. So the lesson that I got from meeting this female was about changing your company and the people that you hang around with, right? That was what was brought into my awareness when I met her. And that's when I kind of changed my ways. I mean, the second time was really unlucky and unfortunate. I'd already started changing as an individual, but I was still hanging around with some of the same people. And I've learned massively now that, your vibe is really much based on the tribe that you have around you.
Sure.
So that was a big turning point for me.
And how old were you when you met your ex-wife?
22, I believe.
Okay, so young.
Yeah, very young.
And how was she when she learned about your past?
I kind of met her before I went in, so she knew I had a court case going on. She was very empathetic. It was new to her as well. But she could see that I was a young guy that was trying to transition or change something about his life, right? So for her, it was just an interesting experience, I guess. We weren't in touch when I went to jail, but when I went in, she went to my mom and dad's house and got my address and started writing to me. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And so I know you guys went on, you guys got married, obviously, and had a couple of kids together.
Yeah.
So from what you showed me before, and I think it's super cool because you kept your diary that you had when
Did.
you were locked up.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. If you can share about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting story with this because my auntie sent me this when I think I was in week 3 of a 12-month sentence, and I received this in the post. And she said, just write in it every day. So I did every single day for 12 months. And there's a lot of times when you're young and you clean your bedroom and you get rid of garbage. This book went into my garbage at least 10 times, but something inside me took it out again, right? And I never knew what it was. And I've only just started to realize over the past 2 years when I've started sharing my story that this is why I kept it, so I can share this experience with people.
Wow.
And it's pretty cool having access to your 17-year-old self, almost 20, 23 years later.
Yeah, no kidding. Is there something that stands out that you can read to us?
I was looking for something to share. I couldn't find anything specific. So because I've always had this kind of positive mindset and always tend to look forward as opposed to look behind me, I thought, let me pick the day after today, which is tomorrow, the 26th of March, but back in 1998.
Okay.
So I'll read it. It won't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. It was written in the in the 90s and in a very British 17-year-old accent, but I'll read it nevertheless. So I found home today and I spoke to Mom, my brother and my sister. I also found a friend called Amit. He's going on an all-nighter tonight at a club called Bollywood. He is going to see Bobby on Monday with Sunil and somebody else. I got my community visit form today from Mr. Kavanagh, who's one of the officers. I will send it off in the morning and hopefully get it back over the weekend. It was staff training day today, so nothing much was going on. I got my head down this afternoon after I finished my shift on Cerberry. My friend Rana got a piss test today. He's not very happy. Mr. Cartwright put my name down to get a haircut for Tuesday at the hairdresser's course. That's it. I basically used to write about what I'd done in the day and how I felt. So yeah, that was my day on the 26th of March, which was a Thursday back in 1998.
And you wrote in this every day?
Every day.
Wow.
Every single day, all the way till the day I left.
I still think it's incredible. You've kept it all these years.
Yeah. Now I know why. I'll probably want to share it more.
I was going to say, share it with your girls when they get older.
I have. My daughters are 12 and 9. Sorry, yeah, 12 and 9, and I've already shared it with them now because they've seen it and they've asked what it is, and I've told them about that experience, which I think is pretty important.
So you're pretty transparent with them, like they know you were locked up. And
yeah, absolutely. I do actually encourage them not to talk to other people about it because people will make assumptions, and I don't want anyone to cast judgment on them or think of anything like, change your opinion towards them. But yeah, they're aware that I had that experience. They'll probably learn more about it as they get older.
Wow. I think it's great that you're open with them. Like with my kids, it's like people ask about it and I say, yeah, I tell them because it's better they find out through me than somehow later on and they find out and go, why didn't you tell me about this?
Yeah, and I've done a lot of inner work, and as you know, I'm quite spiritual and follow a spiritual path as best as I can. But I've hidden this experience for almost 20 years. I was ashamed of it. I'd apply for jobs and lie on my application, say I don't have a record. It wasn't that serious, so it never used to come up. I wasn't going into any workplaces which would cause me to be against the law as such.
Yeah.
But it was very much an experience that I was ashamed of because I was worried that people would pass judgment on me, So by doing a lot of inner work, I've now come to a space where it's something that needs to be shared,
Definitely. I do want to come to the inner work that you've done. Greg has a question for you. I don't know if you can see it. Would better youth programs have helped the trajectory of your life? That's the first question.
Would better youth programs have helped the trajectory of your life? I believe so, especially knowing what I know now with all the work that I've done. When we're young, we're not taught about loving ourselves. basic concept that I understand now, right? We're very much taught and are conditioned to seek things that are external from us, materialistic things, lifestyle things, things that society shows us. So building more awareness into how self-love works with our youth, you know, if there was something like that back then, that would have made a big difference.
Okay. And then second, is there currently an intentional and significant investment or strategy in youth programs today by the government that serve as a prevention to youth crime?
That's a very good question. From what I experience and what I see online, there's a lot of organizations and groups that are always backing prisoner reform and change, etc. I'm going to make an assumption, and I might be completely wrong because I don't really know the answer of what's available internationally in terms of investment. I'm sure there are things out there that help people when they've come out of jail or are kind of in there, but I'm not really sure that there's anything that teaches people spiritual practices or inner work or self-development or self-love. I don't know if you know of anything like that exists, Jess?
I don't know if you, Greg, I'm not sure if you meant directly like in the UK, because I know that you're familiar with the programs here.
Yeah, I said intentional, not international.
I don't know if you can see Angela's question there. Hey, Brian, good to see you live on here. I'm curious how your family handled the situation when you were so young. Your aunt sounds supportive. How were your parents?
I mean, you know, as you get older and you do a lot of spiritual work, because of the level of compassion that you develop through spiritual work, it allows you to then have an extra level of empathy for people, right? I find personally. So it was only really until I had kids myself that I really felt the weight of what I'd done to my parents, especially coming from an Indian background. You know, there's so much pressure from their judgment of what they feel other family members will say, you know. So I only really felt the weight of what I did towards my parents when I had children myself, because I thought, shit, if my kids go through something like this, it would be torture for me, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult time for them, but they were very supportive. They wrote to me, they visited me regularly.
Yeah, you were blessed to have them for sure. It's funny, all the things that we discover as we become parents ourselves, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I did feel that, you know, there's a lot of people in the system that don't have that support. You know, some of them are coming into jail because of a better life in jail than they do outside, because they don't have parents and have family. They're in care homes, foster homes, or, you know, care centers, etc. So I was blessed to have that support, but it really opened my eyes and almost forced me to be grateful for what I have on the outside when I saw a lot of these youths that don't have anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And Greg says yes in the UK, so he meant the youth programs over there. And what would you say to your younger self, Brian?
Oh, I would say just enjoy this journey because things are just going to get better. You know, I mean, it depends which version of my younger self I'm talking to. If it was the one before the incidents, then it would really just be telling him to love himself, you know, telling him to know that he's good enough how he is and he doesn't need to impress anybody else. You know, do things that feel good for yourself. Because I remember when I was committing these things, I knew what I was doing. You know, I'm not blaming the people I was hanging around with. I knew what was right and wrong, but it came from a pure place of ego. So all the times that I was worried, I would be saying to my younger self, you know, don't worry, you're going to get through this and things will get better every time.
Things will get
I hope
better.
that answers you. Yeah.
And so you've gone on this spiritual journey over the years, and you know, since I've met you, I've only known you as the guy who's, you know, who meditates and so, and I totally get your past and honor that. How did you make the flip? How did you flip the script on that? Like, what made you turn to a spiritual path?
I got into spirituality as most people do through conspiracy theories. I remember a few years after I had my second experience, I was working for a well-known bank in my city in the UK in a call center. And I had an African guy on my team from Ghana. His name was Francis, and he shared a set of DVDs with me. DVDs, that's how old it was. And it was all about symbolism and Illuminati and secret societies. That's what got me onto a path of alternative thinking, which led to spirituality. That's what you asked me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so it furthered from there. And how has that made a difference in your life?
You know, there's so many differences it makes. For me, like, I was born into an Indian family, and born into a religion, which is Sikhism, you know. And I believe now that religions really just cause divide, but they're conditioned into us from when we're young and when we're born, depending on what family you come into. So one major aspect of me is when you do spiritual work, it really strips you of your identity, which is also can be known as your ego. And for me, it stripped my identity down to a real core level where now I don't even identify with a religion, you know, which is bewildering to my parents and my family. They're like, what do you mean you're not a Sikh? So that's a really powerful part for me, because it really allows you to connect with other people as humans. You become less judgmental, and you start to understand how conditioning works, which allows you to be compassionate towards other people. And compassion is a real big thing for me in spirituality.
Yeah. 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 No, I know you're on this great path right now. And so now you're in the UK. You live here in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
There's an impact on your past, even decades later. So what things are you experiencing? Because obviously they let you on this side of the border, but you're still encountering some issues.
Yeah, and I think it's just standard due diligence on their end. My criminal record goes back a long time ago, from when I was very young. I want to be 40 in a few weeks. So stuff on there was like 20 years ago, almost. But part of the permanent residency application form requires that you have to declare your record. And I did. And I didn't think it would be a problem because it was from so long ago. Because there's quite a few items on there, I have to apply for something called criminal rehabilitation, which is basically explaining every single situation that happened, the reasoning behind it, how I've been rehabilitated, etc. And then somebody assessing that and saying, yeah, we deem this guy as being rehabilitated. He's okay to enter the country. But it's the first time it's ever affected me.
Mm-hmm. So even
Ever.
Years later, and we usually talk about this affecting people when they're applying for jobs after they're released, right? And we talked about some movements in the States like Man the Box. And in your case, they have this with, like, hey, should we let this guy in the country, or does he need to go through a whole process, even though this is something that happened many, many years ago?
Yep. It's I also have another friend who's in Canada, and he's in his 50s. His record was even over about 35 years ago, but it's the same process for him. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. It's interesting how our society has been built to really look at someone's past from so long ago. Understandable if you've done serious crimes, murder, etc. Even though the chances are, if you've committed things like that, you're probably going to be in for life anyway. But I guess with the world the way it is, and some of the crazy things that people do out there, it's just become the norm for people to do these types of checks, right? It's a risk factor for people.
Yeah. And I mean, what's the extent, like, where do we draw the line of when is too far back? Like, my parents, they were trying to get into the States, and my mom has a sister in San Francisco, and they were trying to sponsor her and my dad. And the immigration official said, well, we need to make sure that you weren't some criminal back in Peru, where my mom was born and raised, even though she left there at 16. So they wanted to make sure that she didn't commit a crime before the age of 16. And, now she's like, this was not that long ago, I think in the last 5 years, and she's close to 70 years old. So it's like, where do you draw the line where you're like, okay, like, even if I did commit a crime, I would have been a child, Yeah,
I guess it's a difficult one. And we have to just be compassionate in a way that they want to do these checks, because if you think about it from a parent's perspective, if my kids are going to go to a certain environment, there's going to be people around them. I'm going to want to know that those people have had full checks on them to see their history, right? So it's difficult to say where you draw the line, because I mean, I guess it depends on what people have done, and they just want to eliminate certain things.
So how would you feel with, like, so your kids now, they're being raised in the UK, and I'm sure the UK also has some kind of, like, have you had a criminal history on resumes, right? On the job applications. So if you knew that your daughter, when she got older, so your oldest, got a job in, say, 10 years, and she was working alongside someone that was, you know, convicted of a felony, would you be okay with that?
Absolutely, absolutely, because I feel that the system is, or should be, robust enough to know that whatever that felony is, if it doesn't impact the environment of that person, then they're okay to work there. And I think I have some faith in that system. I would be totally non-judgmental to the fact that she's working with somebody who has a felony. But for example, you know, if they were convicted of some sort of sexual offences towards females of that age, they probably wouldn't have got that job anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So what's empathy to you?
You know, I've been in sales for 20 years now, like a long time, very successful at it. And empathy's a good one because, you know, even when you do sales training, you're taught to sympathize with your customer and empathize with your customers. But it's difficult to understand when you're young. And that's why I think teaching people self-love and the spiritual goals and knowledge is powerful, because a big part of it is compassion. And for me, when you do the inner work and you learn how we are actually conditioned from birth and when we are young, and you become who you are based on your caregivers, your parents, and the people that are around you, you automatically are compassionate towards other people, because you're non-judgmental, whereas most people are judgmental towards other people. You're not, because you understand they're the way they are because they've had their own conditioning. They've gone through their own learning curve with their environment and their parents and their caregivers. And having that level of compassion allows you to understand empathy, because you know it for yourself. So, you know, you can be empathetic and give compassion towards yourself because of some of the things you've done are for certain reasons. And that's what empathy is for me. That's what empathy means. Really stepping into knowing that people are the way they are because of their environment and their upbringing. Does that answer that question?
Yeah. And how would you see empathy playing a big role in criminal justice reform?
Again, I think just teaching people about self-love, making them understand that person above or in front of you is no less or no higher than you because of X, Y, and Z. And that's the starting process for me, is especially to the youth. You know, they're so driven by external environment and things that are not important. If we can teach them to love themselves first and everything else that goes with it, then it would make a huge difference.
Huge difference. I 100% agree. Well, I appreciate you being on here. Time just flew by.
Is half an hour's gone already?
Yeah. I know we started a bit late, but we also, it's a little bit over. So I appreciate you being on here, Brian. I look forward to when the borders open again and you can come back.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I hope this has helped somebody out there. And I'm grateful.
For sure. All right. Well, we will reconnect soon. And
yes.
Take care.
Be safe.
Yeah. Have a
Take
good
care.
night.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right. So we are going to bring Denis on. I don't know if Denis is on here right now. Aaron, I don't know if you can see him.
I don't see him yet.
Okay. Let me just quickly message him just to make sure. So we have one more person that we're interviewing, and oops. Karen, I'm glad you got to join us here. I know the Facebook Live wasn't working, so I'm glad you rejoined us. So we're going to bring on Denis as soon as he comes on. Does anyone have any questions or would like to say anything? Come on in the meantime. We can bring you on. He says he's here. unless he's under my name.
Let's see. Oh, that might be him.
It's another Jessica Santinato. I don't know if I can unmute him. Dennis, I don't know if you can hear me. I see you on there. If you can unmute yourself and put your camera on, that would be awesome.
Okay, hi.
Hey, Dennis. Oh, he was there. Hey,
Hi.
Dennis. Hey,
Hi. Hi. Can you see me?
can't see you.
Okay, 1 second. Okay. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, can you see me now?
Yes, it's really dark.
Okay, let me turn on the
Okay.
light.
Angela, I just saw your message about getting to know Brian better, for sure.
Hi.
Hey, Dennis, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I appreciate you being on with us
No problem.
and for moving a little bit earlier today. So you are our last interviewee today for a Day of Empathy. And what I shared with people earlier is that you have an experience in the criminal justice system, being locked up at 16 and 10 years, and you just won a lawsuit against the government. So I would love for you to share with whatever you feel comfortable with. What happened? Like, how did you first get into the system? When were you first incarcerated? Was it 16 or did anything happen earlier?
Okay, well, basically, I grew up with a family in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada here, and my family was very criminalized. So I grew up, around criminals, my uncle, my cousins, my family. So, at a young age, because of misguidance or whatever, I started serving time. I started first detention center. I went to the Ottawa Detention Center. I was 12. By the age of 14, I was in reform school. And, I progressed to a maximum security called Salaps Youth Center, which is in Oakville. And I was released at 15 years old. No, sorry, I was released at early 15. And then by the age of 16, by the age of 15, I was arrested in Alberta and I was sent to county jail till my 16th birthday. Then they did what they called a Section 9 application back in the day. And they gave me federal time, and I went to Drumheller Penitentiary. And then from there, I went to Stony Mountain, Collins Bay, Millhaven. Like I've done like so many prisons across Canada.
So when you first got into drum, you were 16?
When I was in Drumheller, yeah, I walked in, I was 16. And the average age at that time was 18 to 21, but I was the youngest in the prison.
Yeah, no kidding. And so you spent the next 10 years incarcerated.
Yeah, I got out, I'd go back in, I'd pick up more time. I'd get out, I'd go back in, pick up more time. I pick up some assault charges inside. I picked up 19 assault charges. I picked up about 2.5 years extra time, for the assaults inside the walls.
So you've been a part of this system for a long time.
Yeah, I've been part of the system since 1981. Yeah, since 1981. I started serving time in the federal system in 1981.
Can't imagine. That's when I was born. So, long time. So now these are very formative years, right? Like you got started at a very young age, and then being locked up starting in drum at 16, and then moving on to the different penitentiaries across Canada. What's the impact that had on you, at such a young age, because you learned so much behind prison walls?
So yeah, I was the first thing, I had to find my place, right? So I had to, so I started hanging around with guys that are older than me. They were wiser to the game. When I'm talking about the game, I'm talking about the criminal lifestyle. And then, I gravitated to, I was hanging around with bank robbers, armored truck robbers, Then I gravitated to the bikers, and then I was intrigued by the biker lifestyle and the power that it gave me and the respect and the discipline that I needed because, these motorcycle gangs, they have rules to follow and, stuff like that. So, I went on to, become a criminal, and I got out and I got smarter and I got wiser, and I started running with the club, and, and I bought myself a bike, and I joined a motorcycle club. I started running drugs, running girls, extortion, guns, all of it, like all garbage, but I didn't know that. Like I thought I was good, this is the life I wanted to choose. And then I was like 2 steps away from becoming a Hell's Angels. I was given what they call a hang around patch with a nomad chapter. And I was, but, stuff happened. And anyways, I ended up leaving, but I left in good standing,
Mm. A lot of experience, a lot of things that you've been through. And so you just won a lawsuit against the government. And I know that they're trying to appeal it, right? That's the next step for them. So did they get to hear the impact that this experience has had on you?
Well, no, the thing is I'm involved in a couple of lawsuits against the government. Right now I have a class action lawsuit against the Attorney General that we won last year, and they awarded us $20 million for programming. And hopefully I can help flip the switch when we win this. But we won on 3 points of the Charter of Rights. Okay, and it's called the Solitary Confinement, Federal Solitary Confinement Mental Health. And, they say that 76 hours in solitary confinement is a legal limit in Canada for like solitary confinement. I served 23 months in segregation in the hole and, locked up, administrative, non-administrative, but I did 23 months. And that's one lawsuit. They determined 20 million for programming, and they're going to determine the amounts at a later date for the individuals. And then I have a second one. It's a class action lawsuit for Crown wards. So that goes back to my juvenile years, from 12 to 15. So that's another one. We won. We're going to trial with that one this year. And I'm in front of the Criminal Compensation Board right now. And it's been, I got to tell you, Jessica, they put me through hell again. They brought me back there. I mean, I had to write my life story. I mean, I had to write all this stuff down for the Crown Ward. And because I'm going without a lawyer in front of the Criminal Compensation Board, I had to write my life story and had to try to access my files. And like, it's been hell. Like, they put me through hell, and they're still putting me through hell. And, they're appealing, and, like, they're just fighting me, like, hey, listen, you know what? I did what I did. I accept responsibility. I served my time. You know what I mean? They took me from my mother when I was a young child. It took me from my home. Well, if you're going to take me from my home, show me the right thing, show me the right thing, show me the right path, give me the proper help that I need. Don't send me to the penitentiary, with a bunch of hardened guys. And, like, what am I going to learn there? Come on. I can't even get a job now. Well, I got a good job because, I changed my life. I did that myself for me. But, I didn't get no help from nobody. You know what I mean? I did get help. Sorry, that's the wrong thing to say. A lot of people helped me along the way. But that's when I decided to change. But, I mean, I'm unpardonable. I can't get a pardon now. Legislation enacted in Canada said if you serve 3 federal sentences, if you're convicted, if you did 3 federal terms, you're ineligible for a pardon. So that means a lot of doors are closed for me, and the government doesn't want to change that. Like, they're just not acknowledging anything, right? And I understand I committed crimes and I sold a lot of drugs and I did a lot of bad things. You know what I mean? But I mean, there's a reason for that. And it's not all, it's part of it is my responsibility, my fault. but I need some closure here, you know, to move on with my life. And right now I'm at a standstill because I'm fighting with them. And it's constant. You know, it's like being on a charge when you're going in front of a court, when you're sitting in the county jail waiting to get sentenced. It's worse before you find out what's going on than when you actually know what's going on. So when you go in front of a judge and he says, okay, you know what? I'm giving you 5 years and you got to do your time. Well, you know, in 5 years, it's all going to be over. But like this is like been going on now for like 3 years, you know, constant. And I can't get my records. The government's blocking me. They're telling me my files are sealed. I mean, they're just throwing like roadblock after me. But I'm determined. And you know what? I have the creator on my side. So I know it's all going to be good either way.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And if you can briefly touch on, because not everyone gets to hear somebody's experience of being in the hole for that amount of time, especially. And I know you and I had briefly talked about this in some prior conversation about the impact on your mental health of being isolated like that. Could you share a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, like I lost it. Like I lost it, man. Like they'd let me out of the hole. You know what I mean? I'd do like 3 4 months. I'd get out, and then I'd hear voices, and it'd be like, that guy's calling your name. You're not gonna take that, are you? And then next thing you know, the guy doesn't know what's going on, and I'm all over him. I got my hands all over him. I'm assaulting him, you know, and I'm fighting, and I'm angry, and I'm aggressive. And then I pick up more charges and I get thrown in the hole again. And I start hearing voices. Then they put somebody in my cell in Collins Bay, and I stabbed the guy 7 times because I thought he was calling me a goof all night. You know what I mean? I was hearing voices, and then and then it back to the hole. And then it was at a point like I even, I was like, I saw Satan and all that. Like, this is terrible stuff that I'm telling you. I burnt my foot. I put my foot in fire for like almost 3 minutes. Like I have scars on my feet. You know what I mean? Like the stuff that I did, like it's just terrible. It like I lost it. I'm sorry. It took me about 19 months to start coming back, but I thought it was normal when I came back, but obviously I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about dignity issues earlier. It, breaks my heart to hear that you had to go through all of that. And I'm glad that you're on this path now of, you have to do what you have to do with, the lawsuit and everything. You're now on the spiritual path, and you and I connected through Kabbalah. And what was that turning point? What led you to this spiritual path?
Well, what happened is I got out of prison in 1997, November 1997. I got out of Donnacona. I was in a maximum security unit, and I was released because I was gated under the old law. So the old law, dangerous offender, you did 3/3 of your time. So when I was released, I had no parole or nothing because I served everything, right? So to my last day. So what happens? I met a girl, and I got her pregnant, and it wasn't intentional, but I got her pregnant. I had a son. And, I raised my son for 12 years, but I was still in the lifestyle. And then I was arrested when he was 12 years old. And, I was arrested for drugs and this and that. And they took my son from me. And when they took my son from me, thank God for him, because that's when I decided that I was really going to change. And I started by doing the physical changes, which I mean is I left the life, I stopped dealing drugs, but I didn't know how to do anything, so thank God that I had, my brothers from my past life that still cared about me, and, they gave me a chance, and they gave me an opportunity. They gave me a union card, and I joined the union, and I started going to school, and, I started earning my money a different way, right? A legitimate way. And then got away from the drugs and the prostitution and all that stuff, the rackets. And, and then I started, trying to get better, but I wasn't getting better, but I thought I could do it myself. I did the physical part, but then when I moved to Toronto 5 years ago, I met a girl, and she got me to go into psychotherapy. Like, she suggested it to me. and I took it, and I went to psychotherapy for about 2.5 years. And then I connected with the Kabbalah, and wow, the Kabbalah has like really changed my life.
That is beautiful. And you touched on something there, because this is the importance of second chances, right? You had brothers from a past life that were like, hey, here's something, you make a job out of it. Like, we're going to give you an opportunity. And yet so many people, our brothers and sisters that are incarcerated and they come out, don't get a second chance, and they face a lot of barriers. So that was really key, it sounds like, for you in transforming your life, at least one step.
Well, my heart, I have a heart, I'm a strong person. I have a very strong heart. And I really believe that my son gave me that strength, and to go out and actually look for a job. And I went out and I found a job on my own. But I mean, the union thing came from from my brothers. I call them my brothers. They're still, but I earned their respect too. You know what I mean? Like I held my own. I paid my debts. I mean, in that world, I earned my respect, and I was with them for 25 years. You know what I mean? And I did put in a lot of work with them, so they did respect me. So no matter what I did, because the way I left, I left in good standing, and there's still a lot of respect there for me. And the door's always open for me, but I don't want to go that way. But I mean, I left that way, and it just happened that way. And, they did help me out with the union card and stuff. But like I said, with the criminal record, I went to apply for a pardon, and the government won't give me a pardon. They're saying that I'm ineligible for a pardon. I mean, I'm making like some good, decent money with the union, and it's sustaining me. But I mean, if I didn't have a criminal record, I mean, it would open the doors for me that I could make more money and be more productive, right? But they're still, like, to this day, they're blocking me. And now the judge is saying, hey, look, you guys did something wrong. Like, you guys need to account for this. You know what I mean? But the government, even though they're being told this, they still won't accept accountability, and give me an apology. It's not just about the money with me. Yes, the money's going to be nice. I'm going to be able to help other people like me. I'm going to be able to put money towards your program as well. Like, I plan on doing that. Like, they owe me millions of dollars. Like, they're going to give it to me too, and I'm going to go get it. They owe it to me, and it's coming to me. And that money's going to be there for me to be able to help other guys that are getting out, guys that are in situation. And you're a God bless, Jessica, because I've been thinking about doing this kind of stuff for a long time, but I'm only one man and I'm not on an island. But I mean, you have an organization behind you, and you've been working with these people a long time. And, I've found other people that are willing to help us, and I really want to build this. And I'm going to put money into this, and time and effort, because you know what? Maybe there's a guy sitting there that's 16, 17, you know what I mean? And maybe I could save him all the heartache that I went through, and maybe I could put him on the right path. And you know what? Yes, you can give them programming, this, that, and the other inside the walls, but 90% of it, it's about profit and money, because, it's budgets and this and that and the other, You want to get real with these guys. When they get out, they should have a program inside the walls where if the guy's doing a year or less, they should train them with the union inside the walls. So when they get out, they can go on site and get a job that pays them decent. Because a lot of guys get out with a good intention. When I got out in 97, I didn't think, hey, I'm going to go back to the game. I'm going to start hustling again. No, I thought, you know what? I'm done. I'm out. I'm never going to do this again. But then I got out, and it was like, well, what kind of job do you got? Like, I couldn't get good paying job. I didn't have no skills, no schools, no history of work. So what do? You go back to what you know, right? But if you give these guys a shot, at making a decent living where they could sustain their families, then you have half a chance right there,
Yeah. And it highlights the importance of organizations that are doing work to support people who come out of prisons and jails that need support with transition, like housing, employment, which are big areas. And again, like there's no resources, what do? You go back to what you know, right? You go back to your old ways. I had tears in the last like 30 seconds. I could start to feel like well up, and I'm like, whoa, where's this coming from? And I was just so present, Denis, to you've been through so much, and it's like taking your like, just from like the depths of you, and like shit, I'm gonna do something with this. And you even said with your own words, like, you want to give back to other people now. You want to give back to other guys. And I think that's remarkable to hear, that like anyone that goes through the fire and says, okay, I came on the other side and now I want to give back and support other people so that they don't have to go through what I went through, I think is just incredible. So I really acknowledge you for that.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. And Jessica, you're a godsend to me. You've been so good to me. From the first time I saw you, when I went to that rehab. When we went together, we talked to the guys, and you approached me, and that's what I was looking for. And I believe in you, Jessica, and I believe in your program, what you're doing. I mean, I just think we need to expand this in Canada, and that's why I want this money. I'm going to get millions of dollars. Of course I'm going to be good. Of course I'm going to buy myself a nice truck, this, that, the other. But you know what? It's okay, because you know what? I'm going to be helping people too. Like, I'm going to help your program, and I'm going to help Kabbalah, and I want to set up a program, maybe buy some property, because I do tax lien properties, right? So I have a plan, that I'm putting in effect, that if I could buy a piece of property, outside of the city a bit, and make it nice, and guys that get out that are on parole. But I don't want to be John Howard, where the guys are coming in and it's a halfway house, and the guy comes in drunk or whatever. I call the parole board. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that is there. And if you're there, you want to help yourself, you want to better yourself, you do it. If you want to screw up your life, then the door's there, and go screw up your life. That's your choice, right? I'm not forcing anybody to do anything they don't want to do. But if you really want to change your life, and you want to make the right choices, and I can help. I have connections with the union. I put in my work. I'm still in the union. I'm an active member, and I still work with them. And, those guys have done a lot for me too in Toronto, right? But it's, I believe that we're here on earth, and what we receive from the Creator is for us to share it with others, right? You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to do with millions of dollars? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to be getting it, it's just, I think it's going to take about 2-3 years. Like, I got 2 different lawsuits right now, and they're each going to pay out pretty good. Like, I believe that, and I have faith, and they owe me that much, and they owe me an apology. But then if I can help somebody, that's great. And like I said, you've been so awesome with me, Jessica. You've helped me a lot, just by giving me this opportunity to speak, and to do things with this. So thank you so much too, Jessica.
My pleasure. We're wrapping up here. There's a couple of comments and a question. So number 1, Angela says, I love his resiliency and passion. And number 2, it's crazy to hear that in Canada, we don't have programs to get these guys educated and trained while inside the jails. And then she has a question here. So this is all incredible. My heart goes out to you. How is your mental health now?
Oh, my mental health is great. I mean, the Kabbalah is so helped me. And, I've come to another place. Like, I'm at a different minding. I mean, I fall. I get reactive sometimes, but I get back up. I'm not perfect, right? But I work on my program every day. I follow the Kabbalah. I read the Zohar. I always try to be positive. I try to help people. That gives me sound mind. And I try not to put, as for my mental health, I try not to put myself around people that think the way I used to. And I see it right away now, you know what I mean? Like, I'll see somebody and he'd be like a sheep, but he's in wolf's clothing. But I see the wolf right away because I've been there. So Don't try to play me, buddy. So you know what? You're a nice guy. I respect you, but please, next time.
Yeah,
I don't stay there. I don't stay in it.
Yeah, you've experienced the contrast now, and I mentioned in one of the earlier interviews about the power of Kabbalah and what they did with bringing the Zohars into one of the Dominican prisons over there, right? Overpopulated, 2,000 capacity, there's 10,000 men, but they brought in Zohars for all of these men, and also got to share about the Kabbalah and teach them about it, and then also their spouses and their children, so that they have the tools. And Kabbalah, I haven't delved deep into it. My experience with it has been really powerful, and I love that it doesn't matter what religious background you come from or cultural background, doesn't matter. It's a technology. It doesn't discriminate. So the other question here is, I know finding spirituality is so healing. Just curious, do you still hear voices?
No. I hear voices, but I mean, they're the, I mean, it's not like the kind of voices that I used to hear. I mean, I connect to I get messages and I talk to the creator, but I mean, it's not like it used to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it angels now?
Yeah, angels, exactly. I call on my angels, my archangels, and, you know, the creator. But I mean, I don't tell people this, and then I don't, no, I'm not in the same place at all. Like it's like night and day. Like I am not in the same place.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. And her last question is, has all that disappeared, or has medication been part of the healing process?
No, medication is not. I don't believe in medication. Medication just suppresses your feelings. It doesn't make you deal with it. You know what? I believe you need to go to the desert to find the light. So, you know, all those things that happened to me, you know, made me the man that I am today. So I guess it's just part of my movie. And sometimes you have to go through the dark to get to the light. And that's what I did. And, you know, sometimes challenges show up in life, and your perspective on what you look, the way you look at it and how you deal with it, right? So if something bad comes your way, it's not necessarily bad. It's actually a challenge, and it's a good thing, because it shows you how to deal with it. And when you deal with it and you work through it, it brings you to a higher place. It brings you to your higher self once you understand that. But that's Kabbalah work, and that takes years. It took me years.
Yeah, we talk about the gift and the pain and flip the script. Last question for you, Denis. What's empathy to you?
Empathy is understanding somebody's pain. I believe understanding somebody's pain and what they're going through, and, you know, yeah, trying to understand somebody's pain. Like somebody, like one of my ex-girlfriends, you know, she, when I left her, I just left her about a year, not even a year ago. And she was really angry with me, and she was really mad at me, and she's like very abusive. And I was like, why is she like that? Like, I'm just being nice to her. But then I understood that some people that hurt, that's how they deal with pain, right? So I was being empathetic and trying to understand why she was being mean like that. But in reality, it's just the pain she was feeling. And some people, they don't know how to deal with their emotions, right? So
beautiful. And everyone deserves empathy. And with that, I so appreciate you, Denis, for coming on here and sharing your story and being open with us.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for the opportunity. And thank you, everybody, for listening and the questions. And God bless you all. And
you're welcome. Angela says, so proud of him. Karen says, thank you for sharing so honestly, for being vulnerable and raw. What a gift.
Thank you. Bye.
Beautiful. Bye, Denis.
Bye.
All right. So, Erin, I'm going to call you back on. If you can show your face to help me wrap up the night, that'd be awesome. Cool. Just going to close this off here. All right. So, is Denis still on there or no? Maybe it's just a frozen thing.
There we go. I think it just jumped off.
Okay. So first of all, I appreciate everyone that has tuned in today to help us celebrate the 4th annual Day of Empathy, and the first in Canada. I so appreciate your support. I heard Karen was on for all 5 hours earlier, and she's on again tonight. And anyone else that has tuned in throughout the day and has been a part of this, I appreciate you. I want to give a shout out again to the Cut 50 team and Van Jones and Lewis Reed and everyone that's helped. And Aaron, I want to thank you again. Before we jump off, Aaron, I would love for you just to share some, like a highlight, like what did you get out of today? I know you shared a little bit earlier, but what stood out for you today?
I think what stood out is kind of the energy that you all have in your area, specifically in Canada, where, here in the U.S., we have a lot of criminal justice reform efforts that are going on. And this is, the first of a few things like this in Canada. And I just enjoy the energy that you all have and how positive you are with attacking these things, because this is work that takes a lifetime. And each panelist that you had today had the same feeling of forgiveness, doing deep personal work, and then just a long-term commitment to kind of giving back to other folks that are kind of in the same position that you all were in. So I just really enjoyed participating in that conversation, and just getting that energy from all you, because I really feel like there's a lot of work ahead of us, but we've got the right people involved. So I really enjoyed that.
Oh, beautiful. And what's empathy to you?
Oh, wow. Empathy to me is putting myself in someone else's position with not thinking about or being concerned about my own current position. It's taking a look at where someone is at and imagining what that feels like, and allowing that information to dictate what I do next. I think if I continue to do that in life, it leads to good decisions.
Beautiful. Well, I so appreciate you being on. Like, you were such a rock star for staying with me all day on this and being my tech support and saving my butt.
You're welcome. You did wonderful. I learned so much.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. And Aaron, if you could just stay on with me as I close this meeting off. And everyone else, have a great day or night, wherever you are.
So take care, guys. Okay, let's see. What is it going to do?